Hey folks, Joe Valley here, one of the hosts of the Quiet Light podcast. As you know, I'm a partner at Quiet Light Brokerage and a serial entrepreneur, like many of you, or many of you will be someday. I've been self-employed since 1997. Back then, I ran a radio direct response media buying agency. I've produced two television infomercials for my own products. I even co-hosted one of the shows. I moved my last brand 100% online in 2005 and sold it in 2010 through Quiet Light. I then joined the team in 2012 and since then have sold nearly 100 million in total transactions. And I am just one of 12 people on the team. Yes, 12. In the last podcast, you heard me say 11, but Pat Yates has joined the team. He's a Shark Tank alumni, owns a brand called Happy Feet, and did a deal with Robert in 2014. He's been training his whole life for this role at Quiet Light, and he's a new member of the team. So welcome, Pat. Today's episode is brought to you by Quiet Light Brokerage, a small to middle market entrepreneur-led M&A firm focused 100% on online businesses. Everyone on the team has built, bought, or sold their own online business and now acts as advisors to other entrepreneurs seeking an exit as well. And today we're joined by my friend Steve Chou. Steve is the founder of the My Wife Quit Her Job podcast, Bumblebee Linens, the Seller Summit e-commerce conference, and a host of other online businesses. Steve has his master's in electrical engineering from Stanford University, so he's kind of a smart guy, but he spent a good deal of his graduate education studying entrepreneurship, so he was very distracted. And when his wife became pregnant in 2007, they started a company called Bumblebee Linens and replaced her salary, $100,000 salary, within 1 year. Since then, Steve's helped thousands of entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs take a similar journey. And he's here to share ideas on how to get started with your own online business or grow an existing one that you may have or one that you may buy from Quiet Light Brokerage at some point in the future. Steve, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast.
Happy to be here, Joe.
Let's just get this over with. Did you beat Mike Jackness badly in tennis last week or not? All right.
Yeah, I was going to keep that on the down low because for those of you who know Mike, he's very competitive. He's probably taking private lessons right now as we speak. So
Steve and I chatted before we recorded, and we were both going to be professional and hold off and not really talk about Mike Jackness and how badly Steve beat him in tennis.
Oh man, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast.
But I couldn't help it. He doesn't listen to this. Yeah. For those that don't know Mike Jackness, just Google Mike Jackness and the Quiet Light podcast. We sold his business, Color It. We did a series of podcasts on it. We did it on his podcast, Ecom Crew as well. And Steve and Mike are good friends. So, but enough about Mike Jackness and his inability to beat you at tennis. He's going to throw so much money at you.
I know, man. I'm not. Oh, dude. Yeah.
All right. So your journey. So seriously, Stanford University. You're no dummy. Seriously, my kid. We traveled a few years ago and visited Stanford, and his top choice was Stanford, but he ended up not even applying because there's just no possible way.
It's a lot harder to get in now than it was back when I went. Let's just say.
That's what I say about Northeastern University, but it's still not Stanford University. So, but it wasn't for you. You and your wife were just grinding it out the way that many people that are listening in the audience now grind it out with that day job. For instance, we just launched a business today's, what are we recording on Monday? So it was a week ago Friday, Pat and I launched a business and we had 9 offers on it. It's gone over asking price. And those are 9 people that are grinding it out in the day job, just trying to find that perfect business. This one is, and now they're trying to become Steve Chou and live that entrepreneurial life. But you guys were grinding it out, not happy with life. Baby comes along and you decided to start your own e-commerce business. Was the very first one Bumblebee Linens?
It was, yeah. My wife basically told me she wanted to quit just to hang out with the kid at home. We live in Silicon Valley. Joe, you've probably been here several times. It is expensive to live here. Pretty much need 2 incomes to get a good house and good school district.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And so there was no way for you with a master's in electrical engineering from Stanford to cover both, at least at the lifestyle you were living?
We could have covered both, but like the houses here. So for example, like our house here is worth $3 million and it's a shack. Wow. It literally is a shack. That's just to give you an idea of what real estate prices are over here. So in
Not to
order
mention it's
to,
California, so you're paying 13% income tax as well, and that's probably just
yes,
going to get worse.
yes. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Joe. In
When are
fact,
you
my wife
leaving?
and I had discussed moving out of this place actually.
Yeah.
That's a different tale. But yeah, my salary could have covered it, but we would have had to have skimped. And my wife actually still wanted to do something on the side, that she could perhaps get back into once our child was a little bit older. I do want to say this because you mentioned Stanford many times. I think having an education and getting a good job actually is a big deterrent to starting your own business because you have your cushy salary here and you're thinking to yourself, man, I have to make this much with my business in order to replace the salary. And what's happening is like your employer just keeps raising your salary to the point where it doesn't really make sense to even want to try. So I will say that.
Golden handcuffs, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that you stuck around in your day job for several years before you went off and on your own. Is that right? Is that how to
I
tell
did
us a little bit
actually.
more of your story and how it worked?
Yeah. So the plan really was to make my wife quit. My job, I actually really loved my job. I studied microprocessor design. I was a hardware engineer. And that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so we started the store in 2007. We replaced her income after a year. And then I read this one blog by this dude named Steve Pavlina, How to Make Your First Love Dollar. He was making like $4,000 a day via advertising on his blog. And so I was like, okay, just in case this whole engineering thing doesn't work out, I may as well start my own blog. And that ended up turning into a 7-figure business as well, in addition to the store.
And was that My Wife Quit Her Job, the
My wife
blog?
quit her job. Yep.
Gotcha. That's 2007. The world has changed a lot in the last 13 years, and people have a lot more resources to educate themselves with courses like you've got, your podcast, your story, the way that you help people, even our friend Mike Jackness and Ecom Crew and his premium program. But they also have an opportunity more now than ever to buy a business.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had Walker on the podcast who wrote Buy Then Build, and Amanda on the podcast, Amanda Robb, who joined the team when I joined the team. And she's an advocate of building versus buying. With all you know right now, and to the audience that is out there, and some of them are thinking build, some of them are thinking buy. What do you think in terms of risk and preference? And I know it changes depending upon people's life roles, but what do you think?
Yeah. So back when we got started, and we're still running this business today, we've been running for 13 years. I think if you have the capital, I'm actually in the buy camp now. I wasn't like if you asked me this question like several years ago, I wouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm.
But after looking at some of the listings I've looked at, there's a lot of people who aren't doing a lot of things to grow their business. So that first startup period with your business is actually really difficult. Like when you're starting from scratch, like just building some initial traffic, domain authority, and just getting some traction, that's arguably one of the harder parts of getting started in e-commerce.
Right.
So if you have something with an existing customer base, it's much easier to grow the business there, maybe sell more to your existing customers, and you have a base where everything's just kind of taken care of. You can kind of focus on the marketing. That, in my opinion, is probably a faster way to make a significant amount of money today. But of course, it requires capital.
It does. It does. If you find like the business we launched last week, the reason we had 9 offers on it is because it's SBA eligible. It was at $1,050,000. And it's, we've got offers that are going above that. And that's why there's so many people, because they can come to the table with 10 or 15% down. That's the ideal situation for buyers. Not always the case. So you've got to have more capital if it's a non-SBA eligible business. And we just don't have that many in that, $1 to $500,000 range these days.
Mm-hmm.
Our average is 2 to 2.5 times that. All right. So you're more in the buy camp than the build camp, but what you do with your podcast and with your courses that you have are really appropriate in many ways for people that buy and then want to bring in expertise that they don't have. They can learn from the experts that you have on and the courses that you've put together, things of that nature. If I was to buy a business and I'm coming from the corporate world in Silicon Valley and I don't know anything about online marketing, but I'm going to buy e-commerce business, let's call it 50% FBA, 50% Shopify. What am I going to look at on My Wife Quit Her Job? What's there that's going to really help me more than anything else? Because I know there's a ton there, Steve, and you know it better than anybody.
Yeah. So first off, I actually, like if you don't know anything about e-commerce, I wouldn't just go off and buy a business, right? I mean, you had to kind of understand how things work. The best way, obviously, is to run one before you choose to buy, but that's not always possible, right? So you absolutely have to understand how e-commerce works. And the best way to do that is, aside from running one before you buy, is to just kind of get educated on what everyone's doing out there in order to get business. And that's kind of what I cover on the blog as well as the podcast. I now have a YouTube channel as well. Teaches you the ins and outs on how to build up your e-commerce business so that when you are looking to buy something, you kind of you know what to look for on how you can improve something before you actually make that purchase.
That's a huge difference in today's world versus back when you started and back even when I sold my business in 2010. Those resources were not available. So to those that are out there listening, thinking they're going to buy something, what Steve's talking about is, and I'm going to say it less politely than he would, get an education, take your time and put in the work, because you're about to stroke a check for $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, and put everything at risk. And if you don't get an education first and learn what you're going to do to grow a business, it's not going to benefit you to just look at a package that's put together and make a decision quickly. What I'm always advising is that you look at as many listings as possible. That's part of the education process, Steve, is that I think people should be looking at 20 or 30 listings before they make a decision to make an offer on one. It's very, very rare that the first 2 or 3 that they'll look at, the perfect one will be there. I think the more they look at, then the more they'll know that perfect fit when it comes along, and then be able to act quickly and have all their financial ducks in a row. But I like the idea of listening to your podcast and reading the blog so that they're getting educated along the way, because they read these packages and they look at these listings and they go, well, I heard that over there with Steve and the mini courses and how that could change. And I could do that with this business to create some recurring revenue and things of that nature. I think it's really important that they do all of that. Is there, when it comes to e-commerce, anything in particular that stands out that you see most people are not doing that they should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, like, as you're browsing these companies for purchase, you have to dig into the nitty gritty. And this is where kind of like the education comes in play. So I've seen companies that are doing very well, but they aren't doing any email marketing, for example, or they aren't doing any messenger marketing or SMS marketing. A lot of people focus on getting new business, but not focusing on the existing customers that they already have. And so what I found in the past is that, as you're looking at companies, if you find that they're not really doing a good job of getting more out of their existing customer base, then that's like a huge way that you can grow the business once you make that purchase. So that's just like one aspect. Other ways that I've seen where you can actually make a huge difference in something that you buy is by perhaps increasing the average order value or introducing complementary products that can be sold together and kind of boost the amount of money that you can get per transaction.
When it comes to Bumblebee Linens, what percentage of your revenue is produced on your own store versus Amazon?
Yeah, it's increased over the years. It started out to be very little. Now I would say it's more on the order of 70% our store and 30% Amazon.
You said it increased over the days. Do you mean the store is increasing?
No, the Amazon share has actually increased over
Yeah.
the years. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's inevitable that the Amazon side is just going to grow at a faster pace than the storefront because that's where most people are shopping?
So for our store, it's a little bit different. We sell personalized products, and those are actually our highest growth drivers. Those are items that don't lend itself to FBA because we actually personalize them in-house. I'm actually a firm believer of doing things that are kind of more of a pain in the butt, so to speak, because it makes the business a much harder to replicate, right? So if someone wants to start a business where they're personalizing linens, they have to buy sewing machines. They have to learn how they work. They have to learn like how to place designs and that sort of thing, which provides a much higher barrier to entry than just taking a private label product and putting it on Amazon. So when I say that our percentages increase, it's because we've been introducing more of our non-personalized inventory into Amazon. But yeah, for those products, Amazon has 50% market share. It's probably only going to get larger.
So have you thought about that aspect of it and doing more sort of off-the-shelf products that are not as personalized, just so that you don't lose future revenue with Amazon because so much of it is personalized? Or do you see the personalization happening on Amazon in the future?
Personalization has already happened on Amazon. We actually have a couple of products on there. But what I think what most people don't realize is that there's a lot more back and forth involved in doing something that's personalized. which the Amazon platform, where you can't really communicate that well with the customer, isn't as ideal for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, and to answer your question, it's just about introducing more, off-the-shelf products. Uh, where we're coming from, like the original reason that we started our businesses was so that my wife could stay at home, and it's more of like our businesses kind of contribute to our lifestyle, so to speak. Amazon that we found over the years, even though it makes a significant amount of revenue, it's actually the biggest stressor for my wife and I. Mainly because you could wake up one morning and your listings are suspended. This happens all the time, actually. You wake up one morning and something's wrong, someone's attacking you, you get suspended, and you just have to deal with that. Those issues you don't really have to deal with at all with your own e-commerce store.
Mm. So there's a big advantage to owning your own e-commerce store beyond owning the customer. You don't have the stresses that Big Brother Amazon's going to do something to suspend your store, or I see competitors go ahead and knock up people's listings and file grievances, and Amazon suspends it until you prove that you're innocent, and those types of things. It does happen for sure.
Yeah, and we're in the wedding industry, right? But believe it or not, 36% of our business, our revenues every year are from repeat customers.
Even though you're in the wedding industry, is that a bad sign for how long marriages last, or you've got? Is it?
Yeah, we have this
stuff?
divorce autoresponder series that we give out. As soon as someone gets married, we'll see you in like a couple of years.
You've got an automatic tie-in to divorce court. You get a notice when somebody files for divorce. Is it because there's your customer is not the bride and groom? They're more of the who is it? Is it a B2B side of it?
Yeah, it's the B2B side, precisely. So we have event planners, wedding planners that come to us, and this is one thing you can't do on Amazon. Like, we go through our customer list. We actually have a survey that goes out as part of our email autoresponder sequence, just asking them if they are essentially like a planner of some sort. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we find out they're a planner, we literally just pick up the phone and we call them and we say, hey, here's some coupons. Here's a dedicated person that will handle any order, and we'll just make sure it gets to any event that you're planning on time.
It almost sounds like you're running a real business where you're reaching out to customers,
like where you have to talk to
them.
people and stuff, right?
My goodness. Yeah. Is that still an online business? So if you were advising people in the audience that they're thinking about buying a business, based upon what you said so far, if they could find a business that is not as heavily reliant on Amazon, that would be your first choice. If it's an e-commerce, meaning physical products, try to find something where you can really grow it off of Amazon.
I think that would just, anything that's more defensible would be better. Like, here's some other things you can do with your store that you can't do on Amazon. Like, a lot of our sales come from our post-purchase email sequence. So we'll do cross sells of products. So for example, if someone buys linen cocktail napkins at our store, we have these flows in place using Klaviyo where it automatically tries to upsell them on matching dinner napkins. So based on what they've purchased, we can send them offers that are very specific to what they bought. And that's how we get a lot of repeat business there. These are things that you can't do on Amazon because you don't own the customer relationship.
You're also blogging with My Wife Quit Her Job, and that's producing a substantial income for you as well. What do you think is a better business model? And I know that the answer is probably depends upon the individual, but a physical products e-commerce business or a content site that is producing revenue through online courses and affiliate links and things of that nature?
I get that question all the time, actually. I think it just depends on your time frame to income, right? So if you want to make money sooner rather than later, I think the e-commerce store is a much better bet because you're physically selling something, right? You're offering a product and you get money for it. On the content side of things, it's a much longer path. So with my blog, I actually didn't make much money at all until the 3-year mark. After the 3-year mark, I made 6 figures, but it is a slog. And I can tell you that right now, just in case I had forgotten what it was like, because I just started a YouTube channel up, right? I've been doing this for maybe like the last 7 months or so. And in the very beginning, when you don't have much traction, it literally is a slug. You have to force yourself to be very consistent with the content that you create. But if you can get past that slog period, then at some point, it's just going to hockey stick. And your audience, you can monetize it easily, and the money just grows exponentially. At least that's been my experience with any sort of content site that I've developed.
So if somebody has the fortitude to stick it out through the slog period in 2 to 3 years, really just getting very consistent with the content, then they're going to be able to see the hockey stick monetization. How do you recommend that they actually monetize that blog?
Yeah, I think the best, easiest way, and you can start this out even in the beginning when you don't have that much traffic, is through affiliate marketing. And this is where you refer people to other services or products that you like and you get a cut of the sale. I'm always about owning as much as I can. So any sort of digital products or courses and that sort of thing that you own and you control, that's probably the best monetization method. Probably the worst monetization method, I would say, would be just display advertising. You don't make that much money with it. You have no control of what's being shown on your site for the most part. And yeah, it can be kind of finicky. Like it fluctuates a lot.
So with display advertising, folks, you're getting paid per view, mostly per click, versus the affiliate you might be getting. And this changes dramatically and has on Amazon recently, but anywhere from 3 to 15, or in some cases, much, much more of the total purchase price of the product that people bought. And the nice thing about that model, Steve, is that there's no inventory carrying costs, right?
Yep.
How much time do you put into, or recommend somebody put into, if they're trying to create, I'm looking at your free mini course, How to Create a Profitable Blog. How much time does somebody have to put into that slog every week, creating new content before they start to see that hockey puck growth in terms of traffic and revenue?
It's really hard to put like a time frame on there, but I would say that you should be willing to put out one piece of content per week, at least.
How many words?
However long it takes you to create that piece of content.
How many words in that content?
How many words in that content?
Yeah.
It depends on your industry, right? So for what I do, which is teaching people how to start e-commerce stores, my blog posts are typically a minimum of 3,000 words.
Wow.
Because you need to be comprehensive. When it comes to ranking, it's all about quality of the post. And since I sell a course, the content has to be very high quality, and it has to be, I always inject like my own experiences in there, running my own e-commerce store, because you need to build that authority over time as well.
So you're always using Bumblebee Linens as the reference to what you're doing in your store itself.
I treat the store as a laboratory, actually. Whenever something new comes out, because e-commerce changes so quickly, I try it out in my store and I report on the results. And I use real numbers because I'm just transparent with that.
So folks, I'm looking at Steve's website, mywifequitherjob.com, and there's one mini free course. It's called How to Create a Profitable Blog, Step by Step. The other one is How to Scale Your E-commerce Business to 7 Figures and Beyond. And then there's Create a Niche Online Store in 5 Easy Steps. I guess we've got 2 that are about blogging and 2 that are really e-commerce oriented. How much time is involved in each of these mini courses that you put together? If I wanted to go through on how to create an e-commerce store, an online store in 5 easy steps, am I looking at a course that's an hour long or 10 hours long? What's mini in your view?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that mini course, even though it says 5 days, it's actually grown over the years just to include more content. So I think it's like the e-commerce one is actually 9 steps now, just to give you an idea of like everything that's involved. So in terms of number of hours to go through that, I would say it's probably a week or so to get through that. In terms of hours, it just kind of depends on your level of technical skill or whatever, or where you're at in terms of tech savviness.
All right, so let's talk about your business model, right? Because your business model now is helping others launch businesses. So what's the business model here? You've got the free mini courses, and your business model is to educate, help. And then you've got, I would assume, a deeper, more involved course or services. Do you consult? What's the paid part of it? Where does Steve Chou make money?
Yeah, the paid part of it is a full-blown course where I literally walk you through everything that it takes to start an e-commerce store. And I actually offer, so here's my business model. I offer lifetime access to the course, and I constantly add new content to it every single week based on what I'm working on with my own e-commerce store, right? And every single week I give live sessions where I get on a video, give a lesson, or I'll do Q&A, or I'll invite someone to come talk. And Joe, you've been on before. And there's this live chat box where people can ask questions in real time. There's also 24/7 email support. And there's actually over 120 hours of content in there. Wow. It's always up to date because there's always something new that I'm adding to the actual class. And so that's where I make probably the bulk of my revenue for the blog. And then there's also affiliate offers, all the tools that I use and demonstrate people tend to sign up for. And yeah, and then there's sponsorships as well.
Seems much more sensible to go through a course like this. I know there's others that are out there, but for those that are listening and are thinking, get an education before you buy that online business or start one. Look, we're an advocate of both. I've never bought one, but I've bought two. Okay. I forget so quickly. See, I've started more than I've bought, right? As I mature, and it's funny, maybe it's just an age thing that buying one is in many ways less risk and you're generating income quicker. And you just take the experience that you've gained in life and apply it. And you're not in that bootstrap startup mode. But it seems to me like the course would be great for somebody, any one of these three or the fuller one for people that are either starting or buying. I have to tell you, I don't know how many people would go through a full 120 hours.
That's not the way it's meant to be consumed, actually.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
But even, I guess it's a resource that they should go to. I find, and I'm cutting on human nature. I find people are looking for shortcuts and don't want to put in all the time, energy, and effort that I feel like they should when they're stroking a check for $500,000 or $1 million. The course is nothing compared to the total purchase price, and it seems like an invaluable return on investment that's going to get. But do you find people are consuming 10% of it, 50% of it, 100% of it? What do you find?
Here's how it's meant to be consumed. So let's just take that scenario that you just gave, right? You're about to buy this business, and you've noticed that they're not doing a good job with email marketing. So I would sign up for the course and I would just jump straight to the email marketing section of the class and go to everything is step-by-step to-do list. So as soon as you get to the email marketing section, you go, okay, these are the 5 flows that you need, the 5 automated flows that you need. Here's how you run broadcast marketing campaigns. Here's how you do automated cross-sells, how to set everything up. And right then and there, you're probably going to boost the revenue of that business that you buy right away. Like email is probably one of the quickest ways to get a high return.
And you're sharing your own personal automated flows.
Every single email that I send out, goes into that class.
And are you doing video demonstrations on all this with Klaviyo?
There's video, there's slides, And for people who are less tech savvy, I literally walk them through like kind of where to click and that sort of thing too.
Wow. Just out of curiosity, what software or service did you use to build a course?
So this is another thing about my personality. So I used to be an electrical engineer, and so I hate actually paying recurring fees. This is one of the reasons why I just charge lifetime access. I don't want people thinking about, man, should I pay another month or should I just download everything and just leave? So I try to do everything on the cheap. So my webinar strategy or the course is just based on a free plugin called S2 Member. And then for email, I'm using a service called Drip to do the promotion.
Okay. I know Drip. We use it as well. All right.
Yep.
So why are you not using Klaviyo to do the promotion instead of Drip?
Klaviyo is more for e-commerce. So I am using Klaviyo for my e-commerce store. But in terms of managing a content-based site, Klaviyo is probably not the best solution. Plus, it's expensive.
Okay. So there you go, guys, that have the blog Drip for content, sending out content and updates, which is what we do, or new listing alerts, or Quiet Giant's new video series, or whatever it might be. And Klaviyo for the physical product e-commerce, converting it to revenues and upsells. Got it.
But I will say this, for my e-commerce store, there's also a blog with it. I'm using Klaviyo for that blog just because it's much easier to have everything under one roof.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is there a back end to the course where people can interact and talk to each other, or like some folks have Facebook forums and things of that nature? Yeah.
So I have a private Facebook group where other students can interact.
A community. Okay. I find that invaluable, where people can talk to each other and help each other and be in that same world without being anywhere near each other in the same world.
Yeah. So what's really valuable about that is one thing that you just said, but the other thing is I actually check in on there. I'll do a Facebook Live every single week in that group. And I basically ask students what they're working on, and then I'll continuously ask them about it. So in a way, I'm kind of holding them accountable. This is something that I needed, and to a certain extent, my wife does that to me. But I found that it helps to just get people moving.
Okay. And how many people are generally in the Facebook group on a regular basis?
So there's about 4,000 people in the course itself, and maybe half of that are actually in the group itself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, you and Tony are partners in Seller Summit, which is an e-commerce conference that you have once a year down in Southern Florida, I believe, or the coast of Florida, where Tony
Fort
is.
Lauderdale. Yep.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yep.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I was slated to attend and then COVID hit, so I didn't go, but I've,
I know.
spent a lot of time with the folks and talked to a lot of people because we did it online. But tell me more about that and what's going on there for those that like to attend conferences in person, or, if we have to do it online again next May.
I'll tell you this. So my blog actually didn't take off until I started attending conferences, believe it or not.
Okay.
And same with the e-commerce store. Once I had the ability to just meet and talk to other people who are doing similar things and kind of bounce ideas off of each other, that's when things started taking off. And that is the impetus for me starting this event. And I'm not an event starting type of person. It's very intimidating. And so that's why I partnered with Tony. She'd been throwing events for many years, and we put together the Seller Summit. I'm also not a big conference kind of guy. Like I like to keep everything small and intimate. And so everything I liked about events, I kind of put together into the Seller Summit. So just to give you an example of what that means, the event is rarely over 200 people. We purposely limit ticket sales, and as a result, it sells out right away. And we actually run these mastermind groups. And what a mastermind group is, it's basically a group of people, and we just kind of lock them in a room, and we do kind of like a hot seat where people ask questions on, whatever problems they might have with their business, and then everyone else in the group helps them out. And the idea, and we screen for revenue for this. So you have to be making at least $1 million in revenue. And in this group, because everyone has their own set of unique experiences, chances are there's someone in that room that can help you with your problem. And for the rest of the event, we have, e-commerce industry leaders like Jackness. We should probably compliment the guy a little bit.
Michael Jackness, a good human being, very good at what he does in the e-commerce world, speaks on Klaviyo all around the world.
Absolutely.
We bust his chops because we love him dearly. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Even though he's no good at tennis. Compared to you. He'd beat me badly, but compared to you.
Oh, man. He better not listen to this. Yeah.
He could beat you at poker, probably. Yes?
Definitely. I would concede to him in poker.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So you have experts like Jackness, like Ezra.
We got Ezra, Molly Pittman. Basically, the e-commerce community really is a small community. So we all know each other.
And it's the community that you're associated with, I've referred to as like the good human club. They're just good people. And that's why I'm willing to talk openly about courses that you have. Everything you do, for the most part, I think a lot of people, this isn't a podcast to get you to sign up for Steve Chou's online course. There's free information on the blog. I've listened to your podcast and gotten great resources from it. You had somebody on that wrote a book on getting paid to speak, and I listened to that podcast twice.
Grant Baldwin. Yep.
Yes. All of these different things. There's so much valuable information out there that you give away for free. The course itself, I think, is really important because it takes it to a deeper level. And then the conferences, I find, like you, it was a challenge for me when I first joined the Quiet Light team to go out to conferences because I'm a bit of an introvert. I could talk like this all day long, but when it gets to big crowds and meeting people for the first time, I feel very awkward. But what I've found is that if you pick a few conferences that you like and you go to those again and again, at some point you stop becoming an outsider and you're going to the conference and you're just meeting up with old friends. And they're old friends that do exactly what you do and share information. And you're not only away on a great vacation, but you're learning a tremendous amount on how to grow your business as well. You said that you had a bunch of conferences that you went to, and that's really how you learned about blogging. Mm-hmm. When it comes to must attend or favorite options for attending conferences these days, whether it's e-commerce or blogging, can you drop a few names in terms of what people should look up and go to, perhaps?
Yeah. So my favorite one outside of my own actually is e-commerce fuel. And this is how we met, right, Joe?
Yeah.
E-commerce fuel, I think it's closed off. You kind of have to apply to be a member of the community, but that's one of the best e-commerce conferences that I've been to. And Darian's a good friend of mine, and we kind of run it the same way, keep it small and intimate where everyone's forced to hang out with each other, eat together like the entire time. And those kind of work the best. Other events that I like are more kind of industry-focused events, like Social Media Marketing World. I will speak at pretty much every year. The ManyChat conference, because I've been really into Facebook Messenger marketing lately, is a good one to attend. FinCon is the one that got me into blogging, and it sounds really random. It's like the financial blogging conference, and I'm not really a finance blogger, but that's when I first got introduced to conferences, and I met a whole bunch of other people who were making money blogging in that space, and we've kept in touch and basically have helped each other. Those are the main ones that I probably attend every year.
Kind of open your eyes to the possibility of making money blogging. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know e-commerce fuel well. We've been to ManyChat. We haven't been to FinCon yet. We were going to go to it. Our mutual friend, Chris Guthrie. By the way, I just want to tell everybody that's listening, I've known Steve. I think we met in California when I tried to convince you to have Quiet Light sponsor Seller Summit. And you're like, no, we're loyal to FE. We're going to go ahead and stick with them. Yeah. Anyway, he's trying not to say anything. FE's there. It's FE International, folks. You know who they are if you're listening. They're good people. We mention our competitors all the time: FE International, Empire Flippers, and Website Closers. Top 4, I would say, in terms of people know them. But where was I going? I just went off on a tangent.
Yeah, where are you going with this, Joe?
I don't even know. E-commerce fuel, California. Yeah, well, I don't even know. Joe just gets off on tracks.
Did you want me to say a couple words about Joe Valley? Or I will say that the fact that you have attended these conferences, and we always end up hanging out at all of them together, that's what kind of made me kind of turn this. I feel like you guys are a smaller outlet, and you get much more personal, so to speak.
Well, we're not trying to be the biggest. We're just trying to help as much as we can, because we've all been there. We're all entrepreneurs. We've all bought and built and sold our own online businesses, and we know how glorious and painful it can be all at the same time. I know where I was going now, and it came to you and I at Brand Accelerator Live, and Guthrie had just joined the team, and you are such a fan of Chris Guthrie's. And folks, if you don't know who Chris Guthrie is yet, you haven't looked at any of our listings that Chris has launched, but Chris is somebody that's been podcasting forever, blogging forever. And it's still fascinating to me. You joked around and said that having Chris on the team elevated our status. And
it did, actually. Yes. Yeah.
he wasn't joking. And it has, and it's stunning to me still. Excuse me, I had peanuts earlier in the day. You should never eat peanuts before podcasting. Okay. We don't edit our podcast either, Steve. We're human, and we totally screw up, and it's okay. It's stunning to me still how many people I will talk to that are running $5, $10 million brands or content sites that started off years ago, and one of their core podcast that they listened to was hosted by Chris Guthrie. And it just blows my mind that he had that much influence so many years ago, because he was one of the early podcasters, on content and SaaS and things of that nature. So I think it's a tremendous kudos to you to know Chris and vice versa. But the thing is that what you do and what Chris has done very, very well over the years is really just share your experience, help as much as possible. And at the end of the day, the more people you help, the more people will use your products and services and whatnot, and you'll make more money. But it's an interesting business model, which is help first, help some more, give it away for free, do everything you can to make them successful. And in turn, it makes you successful. And it's part of being a good human. And I think it works very, very well. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you. It's actually counterintuitive, right?
Very much so.
Most people who give away content, they like to hold back on stuff so they can charge for it. But it's actually better to just give it all away.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. But
yeah, I was at e-commerce fuel in 2016. Do you remember going there? It was in Savannah.
I've been to all of them. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah. There was a guy that got up and spoke. I can't remember his name. He was from the Netherlands or something. And every other word was a swear word when he was up on stage. It was riveting. I can't remember his name, but I had a drink with him afterwards. And he pretty much said that. He said, I give it all away for free. I just lay it all out there.
Are you talking about Pep?
Pep. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He lays it all out there. But it's so hard and so complicated what he does in particular that people are like, okay, just how do I hire you? How do I pay you to do this for me? It's a different service than what you have, but it's still giving it away for free and letting people make their own decision. Mm-hmm. You don't sell them anything. You just share information and help. So thank you. I know there's a lot that you do. Am I missing anything? You've got the 3 mini courses. You've got the My Wife Quit Her Job podcast. You've got the blog. You've got Bumblebee Linens, Seller Summit. You've got the full course. What else do you do, Steve? Because I'm sure I'm missing something.
Let's see. So the full course is over at profitableonlinestore.com. I actually run a content-based course over at profitableaudience.com. And I just started that YouTube channel, which is still, as I mentioned before, during that slog period. I also want to mention before we get off is that I feel like you guys are applying the same principles that we just talked about, right? You got Joe, you guys over at Quiet Light, you guys give away so much information and so much help that people just want to work with you just by nature of you being so giving. And I think that's like the best business model that you can have.
I agree. It's like you said, counterintuitive. I appreciate you saying that. I have, like many people do that have some success in life and business, they have a mentor or 2 or 3 or 4. And I have one. It's my wife's uncle, Uncle Walter, if you're listening, thank you. When he and I sat down and chatted about me becoming a partner at Quiet Light and whether that's the path I wanted to go in or not, I explained the business model to him. And he said, Joe, it sounds like you're giving it all away for free in hopes that they work with you. And I'm like, exactly. He's like, that doesn't make sense, but it works, Walter. We're helping first. We have conversations. And oddly enough, it helps us too. We help enough people and it comes around. And it's a lovely, lovely gig that I have, Steve, and I'm sure it's the same with you, to have people come around and say, 3 years later, this is what I've achieved. This is what we've done. I think we're ready to sell now. Those are great conversations. Yep. I got some pictures from Joe Cochran. Joe, if you're listening, thank you. Joe is he's a friend of Mike's. I sold his business in January. I was watching a football game yesterday, and he's texting me pictures of him kayak fishing in Peru, and he's pulling up like a 50, he wasn't actually texting me while he was fishing. He sent them to me afterwards, but these giant fish that he's sending. And I spoke with Joe and worked with him for 2 years before his business was ready. And we did a podcast with him after we sold the business. Joe was a father 2 days after his 17th birthday. He graduated high school only because his girlfriend, then wife, did all of his homework because he was in school full time and worked full time to support the family. He had a drug addiction at one point. He sold his used car to buy more inventory for his Amazon business. He sold his car to keep up with inventory and eventually sold it for multiple 7 figures. And now he's, kayak fishing in Peru. Those are the stories that we love and the people we love to help, and it just makes a difference in their lives and ultimately in ours as well. So whatever. Thank you, Mike Jackness, for that referral. Joe's a good man. Steve, thank you for coming on the Quiet Light podcast. I'm flapping my jaw way too much now. Read to me those additional URLs: Profitable Online Store, Profitable Online Blog, and how do they find the YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is just, if you just do a search for My Wife Quit Her Job on YouTube, I believe the channel should just pop up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last but not least, folks, if you're looking at GoFundMe and things of this nature, keep an eye out. Mike Jackness is probably going to start a GoFundMe page to get some money to get more tennis lessons. Beat Steve Chou badly the next time they play tennis.
Oh, man. Okay.
We're in trouble. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate you joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Joe.